So my name is Conrad, and how are you, buddy? Yeah, we're back in the shed. It's the shed show. It is, there's new modifications going on in the shed all the time. Okay. Um, Today I spent a majority of the day when I wasn't working on the mower and getting everything kind of in working order around here at the Prague flat. I was hauling stuff that we had previously just thrown a bunch of our shit underneath our carport, against our house. Just stuff that we didn't know what to do with when we moved. So I have that stuff all packed in here in the shed, and I cut a hole in the side of the wall over here, and I put an air conditioner in. It's not on, and I don't know if it even works, but it looks. There's something about being in Oklahoma where if you don't have a window unit poking through the side of some sort of outbuilding, you're not truly an Oklahoman yet. And so today I got out all the tools or whatever and cut a hole in the side of my shed and poked an air conditioner there. That way I can really fit in with the community. But it was a productive day, I think, and that's the big thing. No taco sales today, nothing like that, and I did go out to Shannon's and he was not there. Jonah and I went over there and rode motorcycles and four wheelers for a little bit and kind of it was a weird thing as a dad. It's funny because I was raised and I didn't know. You never really know what's going on when you're raised. You know what I mean? Like as you're being raised, you don't really understand the good things or the bad things, or maybe it's up to interpretation on whether they're good or bad. But I was more or less raised like a feral cat. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to think what age I was. It's probably around my son's age, maybe 7 or 8, and he's 9. Where I got my first ATV, and it's there was probably we're just two different people. My son and I are wildly different, and that's totally due to our upbringing. You know what I mean? He has had his mother and me kind of follow him around and make sure he's okay and make sure he knows what he's doing and make sure he's doing the right thing and all this stuff for his 9 years of his life. And my dad and mom, and I come from a broken home. If you didn't know, my dad and mom didn't go that route. They went more of the route of toss me the keys and go figure it out. Go do what you got to do, basically. And so when I got a four wheeler, there was probably a moment where my dad watched me and kind of followed me around as I rode in a circle uh, in the back pasture at my grandpa's house. But it was not long after that I would take it down in the ditch and jump out of the ditch. And then I'm flying down the ditch and then I'm jumping culverts and then I'm just exploring on my own. And, I go down the ditch in Viola, Kansas, and I jump the neighbor's um, culvert and then I could keep flying down the ditch and then I could cross a K-42. And when I crossed K-42, there was this big, I don't know if you can say it anymore, a big dike, not a person, not a not a woman with short hair standing there that's large. Not that. There was a big dike that you could drive your four wheeler up, and you didn't give a shit. You didn't care about the laws or if this was your property or it didn't matter. And the thought never occurred that I should ask for permission to ride here. I just did it. And the cool thing about this area, though, you could go up this dike and come back down, and then there was a jump, basically, but it was a tabletop jump, meaning you'd hit it because it went down in the. I've been calling things hollers lately. I went down in the holler, and I come out the holler, and you'd get pretty good air, but you would land soft because the landing zone was elevated also. So, and I remember being my son's age and just unattended, just unattended. And I remember one time I was trying to learn how to, if I hit that jump fast enough, I could put my feet like a Superman and hold on to the handlebars and then get my feet back and be on the pegs. And one of the attempts that I had, I was trying to do a thing where I would put my feet back, click my heels, and then put them back on the pegs and land. And then I'll never forget the time where whatever my body motion was, I put my feet out, clicked my heels, and when I came back, I had turned the ATV a little bit to the side. And so my left foot, instead of landing on the peg, it landed on the ground. As the four wheeler's coming down, my left foot landed on the ground. The whole weight of the four wheeler smashed me in the ankle, and the peg hit my ankle, and then the whole four wheeler landed that way. So it didn't, and I didn't like land on its side. It landed at an angle just enough to just like basically break your fucking leg. And it hurt. It was one of those kinds of pains that you get sometimes where it makes your stomach hurt. And I didn't get hit in the stomach. It just hurt my stomach that it hurt my leg so bad. And so I got back on the four wheeler. I mean, got my bearings right in my head as a 9-year-old. I'm like, okay, you might not have a leg anymore. How are you going to adjust to this? This is your life now. And so sorry for my finger and my dirty hand in the screen. But then I drove back to my grandpa's house through the ditch, and I went back. I turned the four wheeler off, and I went inside, and I was limping. And my dad's like, "Well, what are you limping for?" It's like, I kind of screwed up. I kind of crashed a little bit, hurt my ankle pretty good. And he's like, "Well, that's what you get. I mean, for being stupid." And that was basically the answer to everything. And he's not wrong. It was not like it was the wrong thing. I was being stupid. I was trying to do like video game poses from some sort of dirt bike video game, and I was just a kid. I had no idea what I was doing. So he wasn't wrong, but there was no sympathy. That was never really offered. It was like, I guess you just don't have a leg anymore, or baseball practice is going to be hard tonight if your leg hurts, but you still got to go. And I like that I had that, but I also don't know. My son is not like me. You know what I mean? And even my siblings aren't like me. At least processing stuff like that, where it's like, um, understanding that if there was a mistake that happened doing that, it was my fault. And it, you know, it is. But I think that for whatever reason, we raise children now, or maybe we have more sympathy or something, where it's like it's the parents' fault and they because the kid doesn't know any better. Well, how else do you learn though? So I learned that day pretty clearly that I shouldn't dick around like this. And then that same dike is the dike that I was there with my dad showing off and showing him what I did, and I ran that four wheeler into the pond. Or there was a creek, actually, not a pond. So if you were going too fast, and I was just going way too fast, showing off for him, and I just blew ass into the creek and ruined it basically. So, anyways, when I took my son to Shannon's today, it was I had this huge, and I don't know if my parents ever felt it. I had this huge fear because I got his motorcycle running, and it's just a little 70, and I showed him how you can shift the gears. There's no clutch, but there are multiple gears. Just stay in first. The bad thing is the back tire was flat, and I couldn't get it to air up because my brothers had tried to put a tube in there or something, and it didn't work. He couldn't get any air in it. I got to get him a new tire, but he doesn't weigh anything. My son, he weighs like 60 pounds. I was like, well, you can go ride it around, but here's where your brake is, and if you shift up one time, you're in first gear because all the way down's neutral. And so just remember you have a brake on the right side of the motor. Push your toe onto that brake if you need to stop. And he's like, all right. And then he just took off. And I was like, hey, but it didn't matter. It's kind of funny because he has like a girl's um and I never have said anything. I don't really care. And I know that in 2022 it doesn't matter, but um when he was like 5, my wife took him to Walmart to pick out his bicycle helmet, and he picked out like a pink and purple one. And I've never said anything. I was like, "A cool helmet, dude." I mean, because basically, if you grew up like I grew up, wearing a helmet, it doesn't matter. It could be the coolest helmet in the world. You're a pussy for wearing one. And so it was almost cooler that if you're gonna wear one, you might as well wear one that's girls' colors. But because I don't have a motorcycle helmet for him down here yet, and this was kind of a surprise thing I dropped in his lap, I just said, "Grab your helmet out of the shed." And so he's got this bike helmet, this like a bicycle helmet that he's wearing, purple helmet. He just took off, and I was like, "Hey," it didn't matter. He was gone, and so I ran over to the truck and pulled my four wheeler out of it, and I was like, ah, and I hadn't even started. I didn't even know if I had gas. I mean, that was all secondary to what we were working on, and finally got it started, and I found him. But then I was following him. I was like, "Dude, you just go, be comfortable, go slow, and I'll follow you." I was following him, and gosh, dude, you just sit there and you watch. I'm just watching this flat tire, and I'm watching him negotiate muddy terrain and all this stuff. And he's never ridden before, and he's never ridden there before, and all these different things. Like, I'm horrible, but he was fine. He didn't fall, and then he had a good time, and we kind of talked about it after. But there's parts I want to let the leash off, and that's what I told him. I was like, "You're gonna wipe out, dude, and you're gonna get comfortable, and you're gonna wipe out, and it's gonna hurt, but I just don't want you to get real hurt." Um, and I don't even know what that means. I guess it means I don't want you to break anything, but shit, it's just weird. It's weird being me and surrounding myself, or it's just strange. We were having a conversation the other day, my mom and I, where she had totally forgot. Apparently, I had broke my leg. You know what I mean? And then she was mixing it up with one of my other brothers who had broke his arm or leg at the river. And it's like, well, you broke your arm and through. It's like, yeah, I know. I mean, before I was even old enough to have memories, I was breaking shit. And that's crazy. That just means I was raised feral. And so were my siblings. At least the ones that were like Caleb and Tug got watched pretty good, and Grace got watched pretty good. But before that, it was damn nunchuck city for my family, dude. We were left to our own. Maybe we had a babysitter. We broke out. Didn't matter. Babysitter. We would just sneak away. Hey, we're gonna go ride bikes with our friends. You watch the baby, and we're 9. We're leaving. We're gonna go steal cigarettes and smoke in a gutter. Which is what we were doing. And I can't say it was the best way. It wasn't, but it's different. It's a different thing. You get a different kind of toughness or grit or something to where none of that stuff mattered. Rules, all that shit. So, anyways, he was fine. But it's weird because I see other people that are my age that have children that are my children's age, and I see them raising them like they were raised, which mean with no supervision, and let them go get hurt and let them go learn and let them and I don't like being the helicopter dad, but I think a lot of it is I don't want to spend the time to go to a hospital. You know what I mean? I get so many friends that are like, yeah, last night we're in the emergency room because dipshit cut his head open. It's like, that sounds awful. And I was that dipshit, except for the most part, my parents would just take care of it at home. We just glue it back together. So I don't know. Anyways, speaking of people that didn't watch kids, I've been watching a new documentary. lately, and I'm actually finished with it. I talked about it a bit on yesterday's show. Um, I'm pretty sure the title of it is called Captive Audience. It's on Hulu, and it's an orange or a yellowish screen, and I think in white letters it says Captive Audience. If you're looking, if maybe if you can't read and you just need to look at colors, it looks like that. And so it's a crazy documentary. So what it is, it's based on the true story of a guy named Steven Sadler, is the name. And when he was 7 years old, his mom was at the hardware store and didn't get him from school, so he walked home from school. And on his way home from school, um, a couple guys talked him into their car by saying that they were a preacher and that they wanted to talk to his mom about church. And he said, "I think my mom would like that." So he gets in the car. Well, they didn't take him back home. They just took him to another town 250 miles away. And then they said, "Well, we've talked to your parents and they don't want you to come back. Um, they don't want to take care of you." They manipulated this kid into thinking his parents, his real parents, and his family, he's one of 5 children, didn't want him anymore, is what they did. And so this kid lived with a stranger who acted as his dad, from the time he was 7 to the time he was 15, guys. Um, and the only reason he left, he was going to high school, he was part of the football team, he was doing all this shit. It's a crazy story, but the only reason he left it was that guy that stole him then stole another kid, right? And when they stole that other kid, this Steven comes home. He's 15. He comes home from school. I mean, he's got friends. He's got girlfriends. He's in the yearbook. He's living his life as another guy, like I think his name was Dennis in his new life, Dennis Parnell. And teachers didn't. Nobody knew that this shit was going on. Well, his dad, basically, the guy that stole him, stole another kid. And so Steven comes home and there's a 5-year-old there. And he said, "This is your new brother." And Steven knew, he's like, because he didn't forget. He's like, "Oh, this must have happened to him too, that my dad stole him." And he didn't want this kid to go through that. And because it was still fresh in that area's um, mindset of the country, the media's mindset, he took that kid and they walked to a police station on their way back to where he was originally from. And so when they got to the police station, he sent that kid in and said, "Tell him your name," because everybody's looking for that kid. Well, the kid goes in there, says, "My name's Timmy," and they knew who he was because the parents were looking for him. Well, they come back out and they say, "Well, who's this guy?" And he said, "All I know is my first name's Steven." And shit, if it wasn't the kid that got abducted 7 years ago. And so he gets this big reunion with his family, and he's back home, and it's crazy because he had all these siblings that thought they lost a brother, and he had his parents that thought that their son was dead and had spent 7 years not knowing what's going on, and it's a horrible tragedy. Just God, you can't even imagine it. And the fucking crazy thing is the way this documentary is done is it's based on this story, yet there was like a ABC miniseries that was done of this story in 1989. And so everybody in the country, it was like the most popular thing. Like 40 million people watched this thing. It's a 3-part series, or 2-part series when it came out. And I told my wife last night when we were watching this, like, I remember this being on. I remember this story. I remember these actors, and I remember it being like a thing. Back then you used to just really um, when that kind of shit come out, when a made-for-TV movie, it's not like what it is now, where only Lifetime and that weird girl from Full House is making Lifetime Christmas movies. That's not what it was. Like, if somebody made a TV movie, it was better than a movie at the theater back then. And so I remember it being on, and so it was so weird watching this documentary because a lot of it is reliving what had happened, but through the director's interpretation of interviews that he had done or stuff that he had seen to tell this story. And so with this documentary, they're using the actors that played Steven and that played his brother and that played Timmy as the people to tell the story because fucking Steven's dead. He got killed. He had a family, a couple kids. They're in the documentary. He got killed on a motorcycle. He was driving a motorcycle, probably like my son was, where he's just driving a motorcycle and shouldn't have been. He didn't have a bicycle helmet on and got killed. So it was um, it was crazy to watch this, but I never knew the ending of it. I never knew how it turned out. You know what I mean? You just assume like, well, and I didn't know that Steven had died. So you just remember a glimpse of this person's life where they got stolen for 7 years, lived in a different town, had a different family, then basically are a hero because you rescued this other little boy who was going to have to go through the same thing that you went through. You rescue this boy, you leave the guy that stole you, you get back home, and you just want a normal life somehow. And you can't because you're telling your story. And then at some point, you realize that you can be a spokesman for sexual abuse and to help people because that's what happened. He finally admitted to what had happened to him. And then he was getting bullied or picked on at school and all this shit um, for stuff that he couldn't control. But people were calling him faggot and stuff. And it was like, really? You're going to do that? I was, I was 12, I was 7, whatever it was. And I was required to do it. And by the guy that stole me, but kids don't care. Kids in the fucking 80s especially didn't give a shit. So it was crazy that then he finally finds his voice and he finally finds his podium and that he's going to help other people. He's going to help other people. And he gets killed in a motorcycle accident. And then, so this whole documentary is real weird because when they're talking to his daughter and they're talking to the mom and they're going over this stuff, which I get is sad, but the whole documentary is very somber. And it's like, you would think that there would be a happy ending, but there's not. And what you find out is, and this is all, maybe I shouldn't say it, but it's not like it wasn't a story. It was a story back then. What you find out is his older brother, Carrie, who is a big part of that miniseries, he always was jealous of the plight of his youngest brother and the attention that his younger brother was getting off of it. So Carrie's always jealous of Steven. Well, Steven ends up dying in that motorcycle wreck. Well, then a few years later, these girls go missing in Yosemite National Park. Dude, Steven's brother, Carrie, to get attention, or because he was always a whacked out weirdo and nobody really focused on him, he abducted these other girls. So that a family that went through this, it created another one. And he abducted 3 girls and maybe 4 people he killed. And I guess there's a big public trial about it and all that stuff, but it was the interesting thing about the documentary is that the characters from that miniseries play the part of the people they were playing in the miniseries. They play the part of Carrie and Steven, reading actual things that those two had said. And so it's interesting. It's an interesting way to do it. And I can't say I recommend it as like, the only funny part about it is there's this moment where the director of that miniseries is interviewing Steven and they're trying to get a good way to portray what he went through. And for whatever reason, the director asked the question to Steven, like, well, why didn't you want to leave earlier? And he's like, well, I was afraid. I didn't know what to do. If I was to leave, I didn't know if my family wanted him. And the director was in the background, he's like, "What? You think that your family's gonna send you to a boys' home?" And Steven's like 16. I mean, he's back when he's talking to this director. He's like, "No, why?" He doesn't even know what a boys' home is. You know what I mean? And it's even the term boys' home is such a 80s thing. I remember. I don't think people use it as a threat like they used to. It used to be, um, or maybe my wife and I don't use it, but I remember when I was a kid, that's why it's so funny to me because that was a threat. If you keep acting up, we're gonna send you to a boys' home. It's like, what is a boys' home? You know, there's a Lake Afton boys' home. There's one by where I grew up, where I guess you just send juveniles that you don't want to deal with. It's almost like sending a kid to military school or boarding school, but worse. Like you just learn how to be a cook or a mechanic if you go to boys' homes. You don't. You can go to a military school and learn how to be in the military. I assume. I don't know, but you learn manners and discipline, and that's not what you learn at a boys' home. You just learn how to be a monster with other monsters, basically. And this director was fixated on it because he kept coming back around. It's like, dude, you're talking to a guy that may not have ever heard that. Um, but that was the funny part. Anyways, I'd recommend it. I'd recommend it just because it's just for the nostalgia part of it. It's just such a throwback, and I'm sure that if you're my age or a little bit older, it doesn't matter. If you had a TV during the early '90s or the late '80s, you weren't able to escape this miniseries. So I would recommend for the nostalgia going back to it. I don't know how much I can get into. Got 10% left on the video. So if you're watching live, thank you, or on YouTube. I'm trying to stream this. I'm trying to see how this all looks. I'm also going live on Podbean. But if you guys want to listen to the download, of course, you can find all of Conradio's projects, whether it be a Shed Show or the OK Taco Show or those guys from Wichita. They're all under the roof of Conradio. So just search for that on iTunes or Spotify and you can find it. If you enjoy it and you want to support what we're doing, you know, go ahead, go ahead and support it. Just go over to Patreon, search for Conradio there, and you can support us by subscribing to our Patreon, where you'll get access to bonus shows that you've missed, previous shows that you've missed, and upcoming bonus shows that we do. So feel free to do that. That would be great. It's $5 a month. I think that's fair. I try to put some stuff out there weekly and or sometimes even multiple times a week. So it's a good value. Also, if you want to do like CBDs and get high, I'll have a link on the show page here when I post it in the description of Diamond CBD. They partnered up with us, and so we get a big cut for anything we sell if you click through our link. So if you like Delta 8 or Delta 10 or there's all kinds of Deltas now, but if you like that Delta variant of marijuana, then you can get it there at Diamond CBD. Seems to be pretty good prices, so consider it, and it helps support the show. So yeah, that's been the day. If it cuts out on the video, sorry. I charged the phone a bit, but we should be good on Podbean. So we're just we're gonna let it play until it dies. I got my Amazon package in the mail. One of them I'm wearing. This is actually from eBay. Got a new zip up hoodie. I'm a big proponent of zip up hoodies, and I got this one from eBay from a very sweet lady who she sent it in a bag, not like a Dylan's bag or something, not like a grocery bag. She sent it in a bag that was purple and it said thank you on it and had a heart. And my wife texted me. She's like, "Hey, you got a package." I didn't open it because it had a heart and thank you, and I didn't know what it was, which was very confusing to me. One is now I realize that you've been opening all my packages if it doesn't have a heart or say thank you. And I don't really care except for I didn't know. And ultimately it doesn't matter. and she could have opened this one, but it was strange the way she phrased it because I was like, "What would you think I'm ordering that?" I mean, even if it had a heart and said thank you, what would you assume that that was that you shouldn't open? You know, just open it and figure it out. It's a used hoodie from eBay, is what it is. And anyways, I also got that my wife did open. I got my Dr. Scholl's insoles. So I've been gelling all day, guys. I've been gelling, and I didn't get my boots yet. I ordered some used boots off eBay too, but and I was gonna put these insoles in them. I put them in my tennis shoes, and for whatever reason, because I'm stupid or I'm me, um, I've been wearing two different kinds of tennis shoes for a few weeks now. On my right foot, I'm wearing a Brooks, and on my left foot, I'm wearing a Saucony, I think is what it is. These are both hand-me-downs from Eric. He gave me two pairs of shoes, and I just thought I wanted to compare them, so I put a different one on either foot, and I really didn't notice a difference, to be honest with you. My feet don't have brains; they're just bones and flesh like yours. So my feet couldn't tell the difference between the two shoes, and so when I got my Dr. Scholl's inserts and I wanted to be gelling today, I went ahead and trimmed them up because they're like size 8 to 14, which is you know, it's a huge discrepancy. It's so funny. That's like, man, I couldn't imagine having either such a tiny foot or such a gigantic foot. But either way, I'm right there in the middle, and I trimmed them out 10 and a half. So I went in between 10 and 11, being smart about it, and put them in my thing. They're great. I've been gelling all day. I feel great. A lot of energy from it. Feel like I could stand all day. Whatever. Actually, I don't notice difference. And to be completely honest, they might be a little bit more uncomfortable than the inserts that were in them from the manufacturer. I'm gonna be straight up with you. But the difference is they make a squeaky noise when I walk around, and I do not like that. And I'm hoping that if I put them in my boots, you won't hear it because right now when I walk around, it's it's like a gym floor sound, you know. And I used to smoke pot with a guy named Jim Floor. And anyways, I don't like it because I can't. There's I'm pretty stealthy. I don't seem like it, but if I want to be kind of stealthy or ninja like or mysterious or whatever, I can walk into a room and people don't even know I'm there, and I'll just like stand above you, and then you'll turn around like, "Holy shit, I didn't know you." And that's my gig. But now when I get squeaky shoes, and it's squeaky on the inside, it's like almost like the Dr. Scholl's gel is broken or something. So, anyways, it's kind of annoying. I'm hoping that once I break them in, that won't happen as much. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated on it. I know it's important. The only other thing, I cleaned up the yard, cleaned up all our shit, packed it into the shed. But at what point do you bring up with your neighbor that they are pigs? You know what I mean? Like, at what point do you bring up with your neighbor, like, dog, I get it. Um, Times are tough. Inflation's up. You know, gas prices are up or whatever, but we got to do something about what's going on here because there's this area between our mansion and my neighbor's mansion where basically wildlife lives. And we're not talking a field or a pasture. We're talking a 10-foot driveway that they do not maintain. And it is littered with garbage and trash and shit. And they don't mow it. They can't. They may not be able to. I don't know. And I don't say anything. I mean, they don't have the greatest. It seems like they got a pretty rough go of it as far as life goes. So I don't like to be the guy that's like, let me rub it in a little bit and ask you to clean your shit up. But and I really don't care. You know, that's their thing. They want to live in a shelter that is uninhabitable. I mean, there's a big sticker on the door that the city put on saying you're not supposed to live here because the roof's caving in and the windows are busted out and this place should be torn down, that kind of thing. I don't, if you're living there and you're making it work, God bless you. But the biggest issue I have is you got a few cats that are like that are feral cats, like I was raised. And in between where we park and they park, this 7-foot swath of unmaintained area, these cats are just shitting. These cats are shitting it up. So they're finding something to eat somewhere and they're shitting it up. And so when I was mowing today or when it doesn't matter, you know, you don't have to disturb the earth that much to realize that you're standing in a litter box. And since we've moved here and since this has been our place, that's been one thing that's bothered me is that I don't mind that you have drawn this card in the hand of life. That sucks, and I hope it gets better. But it does bother me that there's 3 or 4 cats that are living in your area, in your jungle, that come over here to shit. That bothers me because it stinks real bad, and I don't like it. So I don't know how to bring it up. I guess I'll just do it on the show and hope that they subscribe, like you. But I got to do something. I don't want to kill the cats. I mean, as much as I think it's real fun to joke about it. It's always fun to joke about killing cats, but in practicality, to actually do it, that's that's a ticket to hell, buddy. That's the thing. You kill a cat, you can go ahead and you can stamp your train ticket to hell. So that's how everybody gets started. That's why I don't want to do it, because every story of a serial killer, they all start with killing cats. And if sometimes I think if maybe those serial killers lived in a house like I live, where their neighbors didn't maintain their stuff and just had random cats that ate, mice and snakes and stuff that were living on this jungle property, and then were shitting all over the serial killer's yard. Maybe that's why the serial killer started. I don't know. But I can't pull the pin out of that grenade. I can't find out if that's how you become one, because I think it is. And so I'm not going to hurt him. I'm not going to kill the cats. I'm not going to say anything probably. I'm hoping that I can just buy the property is what I'm hoping. I can buy it for like the price of cleaning it up is what I'm hoping. So we'll see. Anyways, this is being broadcast, like I said, live on Podbean, and that's where we do our audio live. Video, it's all over, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, all the big guys. I've figured it out. Figured out where you guys are hiding. So, anyways, it's being broadcast everywhere, and one of them is Twitter. It used to be called Periscope. I think it's just Twitter now, when you do a live thing. Maybe it's called Spaces, Twitter Spaces, and I don't know. That could be going away, guys, because as of today, Elon Musk, the nerd with the golden turd, he's buying up Twitter, man, and they're gonna let him. What's so strange about this is, one, if somebody wants to spend $44 billion on something, good for you. That's fine. And I get it. You control, you now have in your pocket the control of the opinions of the masses. You know what I mean? I understand the appeal of that, of course. But what I don't understand is the political talking heads on either side that are then brainwashing the people that watch, which side they watch, into the reasons behind this nerd's decision to buy Twitter. You know, that's who cares? You could go to a mechanic right